The first 4 words today are to teach you what's called short vowel sound discrimination. What? Miss Dovey, that's such a weird word, discrimination. That just means to make sure you guys can hear the difference in these vowel sounds. So the first word is tan. Miss Dovey does not tan in the sun. She burns like a tomato. Tan. Now, once again, you cannot write anything until I ask you to. And there's many, many reasons for this. The first and biggest, most important reason is I'm trying to get you guys to think in little chunks. And when you guys just go ahead and write the whole word, you're not helping me separate it into little chunks. I know that these words are simple and easy, and you guys are like, really, Miss Dovey? But soon we're going to get to harder words. And if you guys are going that fast, even though you could get them right, you're not going to get them right. So slow it down and don't write anything until I ask you to. So clap out that word tan. How many syllables in tan? Good, 1 syllable. What's the first sound? Then what? Which is like kind of from New York. And what's the last sound? Oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this yet. Good. Right. Now read that word back to me. Good. How many syllables?
1.
What's the first sound? T. It's not ta, it's t. Then what? It's a making a New York sound. And what's the last sound? Good. Tan. All right, if your tan looks like my tan, write it. Now remember, I'm trying to get you guys to hear the difference in vowel sounds. So what sound do you think is going to be different? What's the thank you. Yes, we're going to change the sound. So our next word is 10. You have 10 fingers. 10. Clap it out. 10. How many syllables? Good. What's the first sound? It's not ta. You guys are breaking my heart. It's not ta. It's t, t, t. What's next? Right? And what's the last sound? Read it back to me, please. Hey, you people at home, you can help. How many syllables is 10? Good. What's the first sound? Then what? And the last sound? Good. You know what? I'm sorry. I needed, so that you guys know how to write it in your book, I need to write it this way. Okay, if your 10 looks like my 10, go ahead and write it. Remember, we're changing up the vowel sounds. So we're going to go from 10 to 10. 10. I love getting the Christmas tin of cookies. 10. Clap it out. How many syllables? 1 syllable. What's the first sound? T. It's not ta. It's t. What's next? Write it. Good. Write And what's the last sound? Good. What says Yep. All right, read that word back to me. Good. 10. Sorry, I just looked at 10 there. Clap it out. How many syllables? 10. 1 syllable. What's the first sound? Then what? And the last sound? Excellent. 10. If your 10 looks like my 10. Our last word that just has a different vowel sound is going to be ton. But hold on. Ton. I have a ton of work to do. Ton. Ton is a thinking sound. We have to think ton to spell it right. But we say ton because, once again, we're lazy. Lazy English speakers, and that's a schwa sound. So that means we're just being lazy and saying that when we don't feel like putting in the work to say ah. So it is a thinking word. We have to think ton, but we say ton. So clap it out. How many syllables? Good. What's that first sound? Good, right? Not tut. What's the next sound? Well, that's our thinking sound, remember? So we have to think aw, but we say So write aw. And what are you going to put on top? A thinking cap. And then what's the last sound? Good. Read that word back to me. Ton. How many syllables? Good, one. And ton is a thinking word. We have to think ton, but we say ton. So what's the first sound? T. What's next? It's our thinking sound, aw. And what's the last sound? So we think on to spell it, but we say what? Ton. Good, ton. If your ton looks like mine, go ahead and write it. Our next word is pull. I need to teach Jack to pull a wagon. Pull. Now this is a fun word. Pull has a new spelling word with it, or spelling rule, I'm sorry, but I'm going to wait a second. So clap it out. Pull. How many syllables? Good, one syllable. What's the first sound? P. Not pup. Good, write it. P. What comes next? P. Oh. So, you. Ooh, So it's you making its fourth sound. And what's the last sound? Oh, now here's where the fun happens. Are you ready for the spelling rule? Usually, after a single vowel, we double the L, the F, the S, or the Z. What? So look, in the word pull, does L come after a single vowel? Yeah, that U is like, all the single vowels, all the single vowels, all the single vowels, all the single vowels. Get a double L. So you're going to double the L.
I love that song.
Me too. It's my jam.
My
All right, so read that word back to me. Pull. I need to teach Jack to pull a wagon. Clap it out. How many syllables? One. What's the first sound? P. Thank you. P. What comes next? U. So it's you making its fourth sound. What is the next sound? Oh, and you guys just wait. In a couple of days, you're going to love this thing. Usually, after a single vowel in a one-syllable word, we double the L, the F, the S, or the Z. Now that's usually, that's not always, just usually. So if your pull looks like my pull, go ahead and write it. All right, our next word is we. We make a great class. We. Clap it out. How many syllables? How many syllables? One. What's the first sound? Good. Then what? And why is that E saying its name? Very good. Read it back to me, please. We. Now that we is a different we. How many syllables? One syllable. What's the first sound? What? Then what? E. And why is that E saying its name? Fantastic. Make sure it looks like mine and write it. All right, nice and easy one to finish it off with today is an. I would love to eat an apple. So an is a word that we use to describe like one instead of a, because we don't want the letter A to come up to another vowel. So an is something you use when you're describing one, And the next word starts with a vowel. An. How many syllables?
1.
Good. What's the first sound? Yeah, it's that A in New York again. So ah. And what's the next sound? Good. Read it back to me, please. And how many syllables?
1.
Good. What's that first sound? Ah. It's just, he was in New York for a little while, so he has a bit of an accent. And what's the next sound? Good. N. If your "and" looks like my "and," write it, please. Once you've finished writing it, I need you to please add these to your spelling journal. And when you add them to your spelling journal, you're going to write tan, ten, tin, and ton. And then you're going to put a bracket around it like that.